Lions are the kings of the savannah, and elephants rule the land. But me, I'm the ultimate badass, and neither of them would dare lay a finger on me. It's because I don't give a damn about living or dying. I'm just a honey badger from another world, and if you're not down with that, we can settle it right now. Aggression is baked into my DNA. I wasn't built for a mediocre life. If I'm not starting trouble, I'm on my way to find some. Even if I can't win the fight, I'm gonna make sure I land 2 good slaps just for the hell of it. My old man taught me since I was a cub, no matter what kind of creature you run into, you charge in and scrap with them. My life might not mean much, but I'm gonna keep swinging until you show some respect. That was the plan until I got careless and caught by humans. They threw me into an open zoo, turning me into a showpiece for people to gawk at. But the pride in my bones won't let me just roll over and take it. Right then, a voice echoed in my head. Congratulations, host, on successfully activating the Troublemaker System. God-tier reward. Berserk Strike skill. From now on, as long as you pick fights, you'll earn all kinds of different rewards. My fighting spirit caught fire instantly. This is the chance for my honey badger clan to become legends and make my ancestors proud. I've got to make this count. Just then, a rock hit me square in the head. I shook it off and looked around, and there's this monkey perched on some rocks. He's looking down at me with this smug, mocking face. We might speak different languages, but I know a challenge when I see one. My temper flared up immediately. I let out a roar to warn that cocky little primate. Tourists started crowding around to watch. The monkey seemed to sense my bloodlust, too. He hopped down right in front of everyone, baring his teeth and swinging his fists at me. Seeing that I was actually thrilled. Talk about scratching an itch, I was just moping around this place. I had no clue how to earn points, and then this idiot delivers himself right to my front door. What a good little monkey. Now let's end this. I lunged at him, jaws wide open. Seeing that monkey basically on a suicide mission, actually daring to pick a fight with a honey badger. The tourists outside the fence are losing their minds. Even the staff are totally freaking out right now, scrambling to get a team together for a rescue. In a split second, I clamped my teeth down, right on the lunging monkey. My sharp claws started shredding him like crazy. The monkey was in so much pain he couldn't even fight back. He could only whimper and try to get away. But do you really think I'm gonna let this disrespectful brat off that easy? I used all my strength and chucked him away. The monkey went flying backward, slammed into the fence, and went limp. The tourists started cheering and clapping like crazy. Compared to just staring at African wildlife, they clearly preferred a high-stakes brawl. Of course I didn't kill him. I love a good fight, but I'm not a mindless killer like other predators. This gave the zookeepers who were glued to the fight a massive sigh of relief. Defeating this Asian macaque earned me 10 points. But to trade for a basic strengthening pill, which costs 100 points, this tiny amount obviously isn't enough. So I started looking for my next target, the alpha baboon in the cage next door. He seemed to feel my hostile stare, and yet he had the nerve to hide behind that fence and scream at my face like he was mocking me, acting like I couldn't break through that steel mesh. My adrenaline spiked instantly. Without a single word, I lunged and bit right into the steel fence. The baboon looked a bit hesitant now, but he was still trying to act tough. This guy really has a death wish. But when that punk saw I couldn't bite through the wire mesh no matter how hard I tried, it didn't just chuckle and mock me. Right in front of all the tourists, it actually stuck its butt out and started wiggling it at me. That really pissed me off. Through the fence, I reached out trying to snatch that damn baboon, but it seemed to have anticipated my move. Before I could even get close, it bolted forward. It dodged my strike, and its mocking screeches only got louder and louder. At this point, I wasn't the only one fuming. Even the tourists watching were gritting their teeth. Everyone felt like this baboon's behavior was literally begging for a beatdown. I completely ignored the crowd's chatter. Suddenly, it hit me. My honey badger kin are born experts at digging holes. I glared at that baboon, with its punchable face on the other side. I thought to myself, "You fuzzy-headed piece of trash. Get ready to face the wrath of the honey badger." Right then and there, right before everyone's eyes, I started digging like a madman. I gotta admit, when it comes to digging tunnels, we honey badgers are absolute pros. In no time, I vanished underground. Seeing this, the tourists started cheering in excitement. Watching the baboon looking all confused on the other side, everyone burst out laughing. Honestly, the baboon didn't see it coming. It only saw me beat up the brown monkey, so it thought it would mock me just to make the brown monkey feel better. It never thought such a small thing would make me hold a grudge like this, digging a whole tunnel just to settle the score. It thought that was totally overkill. This baboon was clearly a veteran. It knew for a fact that we honey badgers are aggressive and hold a serious grudge. Thinking about that sent a shiver down its spine, but a moment later it suddenly smirked. Because it wasn't alone in this enclosure. It was the alpha baboon, and it had a whole gang of lackeys right behind it. Within seconds, the swarm of baboon underlings gathered at the leader's call, huddling together. They were getting ready to deliver a fatal blow the moment I popped my head out. Seeing this, the tourists outside the fence started looking really worried. They were expecting to see the epic rise of the honey badger, not realizing I was about to get taken out before the fight even started. Some kids even ran to find the zoo staff for help. But no matter how much the crowd tried to intimidate them, the massive pack of baboons refused to back down. Even when facing the zookeepers, the staff's shouting didn't do a damn thing. They just kept growling out warnings. But just as the baboons got distracted for a split second, a gray-white blur shot out. Suddenly, everything went dark for the alpha, as a sharp pain exploded across its face. Baboons are pack animals, meaning even on the African savanna, you definitely don't want to mess with them. Facing dozens of baboons all by myself. If I said I wasn't nervous, I'd be lying through my teeth. But the excited tourists couldn't see my nerves at all. They were all praising my heroic move. The alpha, clutching its head after my kick, flew into a blind rage. It was thinking, how can I show my face in the baboon world after this? What will the female chimp in the left enclosure think? What will the monkey lady on the right do? With a furious roar from the leader, the rest of the gang swarmed toward me. The underlings were a bit wary of me, but they didn't dare disobey their leader. Besides, they had the numbers on their side. One bite from each of them would be enough to end me, so they lost all their fear. On the outside, I'm staying as cool as a mountain, but on the inside, I'm panicking like crazy. I'm definitely a fighter, but that doesn't mean I'm stupid. Looking at the situation, there's no way I can take down this whole mob of monkeys in one go. Looks like the only way is to take out the king first. Right then, a cold chill flashes in my eyes. Suddenly, I lunge right at the alpha's face and let loose a total rage-filled strike. In that split second, I feel a massive surge of power rushing through my whole body. I swing my hand and whack, a brutal slap lands right on the alpha's face. The baboon leader gets sent flying instantly, seeing that the tourists are completely blown away. Is this the honey badger's true power, or is this guy just born with some insane natural talent? Looks like we're witnessing a legendary moment today. Right here at the zoo. The crowd breaks into a massive round of applause, cheering for my sheer guts. But seeing their boss get smacked into next week, the baboon minions who barely worked up the nerve to charge me suddenly lose their cool and start shaking. One by one, they start screaming and scattering like crazy. I was actually going to let these little guys slide, but taking down their leader only got me 20 points from the system. That makes me so mad. Seriously, if I'm going to deal with one, I might as well take out the whole pack. With that in mind, I dive right into the panicking baboons. Seeing me coming, the whole troop loses their minds. They never expected a beast like me to actually hunt them down. Every single one is praying. They aren't my first target. They're screaming and running even faster now. Half an hour later, I'm totally wiped and stop chasing the leftovers. I switch my focus back to the badly hurt leader. This time, the baboon alpha is scared out of his soul. He quickly drops to all fours, totally submitting to me. Honestly, once an animal loses its will to fight, it's just not fun anymore. So, I turn around and head back to my own enclosure. Passing by the rockery, some monkeys sitting up there scramble to get down. They keep making these little eek noises at me, sounding like they're totally trying to suck up. Now the primates in both areas have been beaten into submission. If I want more points, I've got to go conquer other zones. But after throwing hands, in 2 back-to-back fights, I'm starting to feel pretty drained. For now, I finally get some peaceful sleep in my own spot. Meanwhile, in the 2 enclosures right next to the baboons, there's a lion and a cheetah. The whole scene of me storming the baboon cage, beating them until they begged for mercy. Yeah, they saw everything. Even though my attitude is definitely annoying them, even when food is scarce, these predators really don't want to mess with a honey badger, especially now when they're well fed. Plus, our defense is just way too high. Even for a full-grown male lion, trying to kill a honey badger would take hours. It's a waste of time, and the meat tastes like garbage, so they'd rather die than do something so pointless. That night, I wake up from a dream, just about to find a tree to handle my business when a lion's roar hits my ears. I freeze for a second. Then I'm absolutely hyped. That lion is a powerhouse, the top dog of the African savanna. If I can take him down, I'll definitely score a ton of points. I might not be ready for a wild lion yet, but I can probably take this guy right. Thinking about that, my eyes drift past the baboon enclosure and slowly lock onto the lion cage next door. Maybe it was just animal instinct. That lion was fast asleep, yet he still sensed the danger. He instinctively glanced over and saw me, the guy who'd caused all that chaos earlier, staring him right in the eye. "Hey, flat top. What are you looking at? Keep it up and I'll bite your damn head off, you hear me?" Now I didn't understand a word that lion was saying, but looking at his face, I could guess about 80% of it. I just started laughing. And trust me, when I start laughing, it's never a good sign. That one smirk was enough to send a chill down the lion's spine. As he and I began our standoff, the troop of baboons behind us started getting aggressive again. Since their old leader had been defeated, the whole pack was holding a massive grudge against me. Now that they saw me daring to face off with a lion, they all started snarling and growling at me at once. Some of those clueless baboons even had the nerve to start hurling rocks my way, taking on a lion solo. That's just a typical Tuesday for me. But these baboons ganging up on me like a bunch of cowards, that really ticked me off. Right now, their old leader was badly injured, and the new leader was desperate for a chance to prove he was the big boss of the troop. So he decided to make me his target. Seeing that my adrenaline started pumping like crazy, I stopped caring about the lion I was facing and turned around, sprinting full tilt toward the baboon enclosure. The hole I'd dug earlier had been filled in by the zookeepers, but for a professional digger like me, that was nothing. When they saw me actually charging over, the new baboon leader got even more hyped up. You could see the fighting spirit boiling in his chest. Inspired by their leader, the other baboons started cracking their knuckles and sharpening their claws, giving it 112% of their focus. They were all perched up in the trees, clutching rocks they'd prepared, planning to use the high ground to get the jump on me, but they never saw it coming. The second I crawled out of my hole, I zoomed straight up the tree trunk. My speed was so insane that even the cheetah nearby looked shocked. The baboon troop completely lost their formation. How could they have known that a honey badger like me actually knows how to climb trees? For the next 1 hour, the entire zoo was filled with the agonizing screams of that baboon troop. 13 of them ended up with broken bones, and 8 were severely injured. As for the new leader, the guy who provoked me, well, he's gone to the big zoo in the sky. The lions and cheetahs, while I was busy in that total brawl with the baboons, just stood by the iron fence enjoying the show. At first, they thought the baboons sticking together would make them a force to be reckoned with. They figured no matter how tough I was, I'd definitely get beaten to a pulp. But who would have guessed? I'd nearly drive that baboon troop to extinction early the next morning. The zoo staff looked at the baboon enclosure and saw the heavy casualties. They actually started debating whether they should just release me back into the wild. They never imagined that just one young honey badger could cause such a massive disaster. So regardless of whether I was fully grown or not, they officially blacklisted me from the zoo. My punishment was solitary observation. If I didn't change my ways, they figured their only choice was to let me go back to nature. But that was exactly what I wanted, because the African savanna is where my real battlefield is. To level up my combat skills as fast as possible, I set my sights on a lioness who had just given birth. When she woke up and caught a strange scent, she opened her eyes only to find me trying to drag her cub away. Seeing that the queen of the jungle finally lost it, she uses the momentum to lunge straight at me. To anyone targeting her cubs, this mama lion shows zero mercy. This next attack is coming at me with everything she's got, so I don't bother going head-to-head. Instead, I use my speed advantage to dodge the brunt of it. This lioness just gave birth and is still in a weakened state. The best way to beat her is to play the long game and wear her out. A few minutes later, her pursuit is clearly slowing down, but fueled by pure maternal rage, she refuses to give up on hunting me down, even though she's exhausted. After a few rounds, she's practically driven insane with frustration. Suddenly, she rears back, turning herself into a lethal arrow for one final desperate counterattack. The moment I see her lunge, I know this is my chance. I stop running and strike back, turning around to aim right for the top of her head. I land a blow with insane power, sending that lioness stumbling backward. But as they say, a thin tiger is still bigger than a horse. Even a weak lion is still the king of the savannah. There's no way a rookie honey badger could just crush her. Right, she struggles out of my claws and leaps through the air at me again. I can see her power has dropped significantly, so I charge right back at her with a ferocious roar of my own. By the time the ranger makes it back, he finds the lioness, limping away, struggling just to move. As for me, like a true winner, I'm relentlessly nipping at her tail. Before long, she finally collapses from total exhaustion. She's laying there, mouth wide open, gasping for air. Her miserable expression looks like she's begging for mercy. I look down at my defeated foe, but I notice the system still hasn't awarded me any bonus points. This can only mean one thing. This lioness might have surrendered physically, but she hasn't admitted defeat in her heart. So, after a quick breather, I lunge at her again. Under her shocked and speechless gaze, I give her another absolute beatdown. The baboons and cheetahs watching from the sidelines are completely stunned. The ruler of the savannah is getting pinned and thrashed by a honey badger. Am I seeing things they must be thinking? Congratulations, host. You have defeated an African lioness. Reward 200 points. I'm instantly hyped. I didn't expect this beat-up lioness to be such a tank. Plus, she was worth a whole 200 points. This fight was a total steal. Now that I've got my points, I'll stop messing with her. I strut away with a cocky swagger, heading back toward the cave entrance. But you won't believe it. Just as I lay down to rest, those two lion cubs crawl out of the cave and start trying to climb all over me looking for milk. I'm the true king of this place now. Not only do the Nami mountain monkeys take orders from me, but even the baboons don't dare make a peep. I've even claimed these lion cubs as my toys. Even if the mother hates it, she has to grit her teeth and deal with me. Because in the face of absolute power, resistance is futile. These two cubs are getting way too comfortable with me. Their tiny roars sound so grumpy. They even keep trying to crawl into my lap to be held. But I'm not their dad. There's no way I'm letting these runts cuddle up to me. So right in front of the mama lion, I kick one of the cubs right into the corner. Her heart jumps into her throat, terrified that I might bite its head off next. At this point, her biggest regret is ever crossing me. I've always heard honey badgers hold a grudge, but I didn't think it would be this ridiculous. Looking at the mama lion outside the cage, desperately begging for her cubs, I just smirk, showing off my sharp, pearly whites. I give her a sign that I won't hurt the little ones, but these brats are going to be my playthings for at least 2 days. Right then, the bird probably found another beehive. A brilliant idea suddenly flashes through my mind. I pull up the system shop and trade for 2 basic enhancement pills. Just as I'm about to swallow them both, the little cub next to me starts staring with wide eyes, practically begging for one. He's acting like we should go halves, but I just frown and give his tiny head a quick kick. These enhancement pills were a total pain to get. I had to bust my tail hunting for 'em, you little jerk. You're just a scrawny brat who's barely even fuzzy yet, and you think you're getting a cut. Dream on, kid. Then I open my mouth wide, and right under that cub's envious gaze, I gulp down the pill. With a loud crack, I bite through the iron bars and bolt out of the park with Little Honey Guide. My greedy stomach leads the way as I follow the bird. Little Honey Guide is flying like a maniac, Before long, we've crossed the park's grasslands and entered a thick, dense forest. The air is thick with the heavenly scent of honey, and I can't stop the drool from pooling in my mouth. I kick it into high gear and charge toward the hive in the distance. But just as I'm ready to sit down for a quiet feast, something suddenly lunges out from the nearby bushes. It's a guy with stubby little limbs, and his whole body is covered in sharp quills. It's a hedgehog. The moment I lay eyes on him, my own eyes light up. Looking at the size of this fella, he's definitely a full-grown adult. If I can take him down, I'll definitely rack up a ton of points. Just thinking about it makes my blood boil with excitement for a fight. At the same time, the hedgehog, who was happily digging in the dirt, slowly lifts his head and starts staring me down. He instinctively shifts into a defensive stance, his quills standing straight up. He looks like he's ready to jump me at any second, but when he finally gets a good look at who I am, all that confidence vanishes without a trace. Holy crap, a honey badger. Since when did the zoo get one of those? The hedgehog's tiny eyes are full of pure shock. Then he dives headfirst into the bushes without even looking back. So much for protecting his territory. What a joke. Who'd be stupid enough to pick a fight with a honey badger, right? I'm honestly speechless. I didn't expect this hedgehog to be such a coward. He took one look at me and booked it. Well, whatever. I turned my attention back to the massive beehive right in front of me. I slam my head straight into the tree trunk. The impact is so hard the hive just shattered into pieces. Sweet golden honey starts oozing out, and at the same time a swarm of angry bees bursts from the wreckage. But seeing them, I don't even flinch, let alone run. Instead, I just grab the honey off the ground and start stuffing my face. As for the bees attacking me, to me their stings feel like nothing more than a light tickle. Once I've had my fill, the little honey-guide bird chirps at me, ta 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 ta, basically saying thanks. But how am I supposed to understand bird talk? It just sounds like a bunch of noise to me. Those stupid bees that died trying to sting me gave me a total of 60 points. This eating to level up thing is amazing. I could definitely get used to more of this. Just as I'm getting ready to head back for a nap, that cowardly hedgehog from before suddenly jumps back out, starts growling at me, his eyes full of defiance. He looks like he's itching to throw down and go all out with me right now. Honestly, I'm just confused. What the heck is going on? This little coward actually has the guts to provoke me. You didn't even dare to fight when I was starving. Now that I've had my fill, you decide to jump out. I've been way too nice to you, haven't I? Actually, the porcupine was originally planning to bolt. But after silently observing for a while, it saw that not only did I not give a damn about the bee attack, but I even let that weak little honey-guide bird have a share of the prize. It changed its mind. It started feeling like I was just a weak honey badger, an easy target to bully. So carrying that naive thought in its head, it couldn't resist lunging out. It had changed its mind. It felt like I was just a weak little honey badger, easy to pick on. So with that childish mindset, it couldn't stop itself from jumping out. I saw the utter contempt in its eyes and immediately flew into a rage. You got a death wish, little porcupine. I'll give you exactly what you want. With that, I let out a furious roar. I swung my limbs and charged in with everything I had. At that time, the park's security cameras had recorded the scene of me bullying the lion cubs. Even the part where I bit through the barbed wire was all captured on film. What's more, it was being broadcast live across the entire country. The audience in the live stream couldn't sit still anymore. He's just a honey badger, but man, he's such a badass. This honey badger is my new idol from now on. He's definitely the king of this zoo. Even an elephant might not be a match for him. Looking at those aggressive comments on the screen, the managers were completely speechless. Originally, they had planned to release me back into the wild, but now that my commercial value has skyrocketed, they've temporarily abandoned the decision to let me go. However, the prerequisite is that I don't cause any more trouble. But just as the staff were about to fix the fence that I had wrecked, they noticed a small creature with a back full of quills, slowly making its way over. Is that a porcupine? Why doesn't it look quite right? Alan, the manager, shook his head. As it got closer to the monitoring room, everyone gasped in shock. The honey badger is back, and he's got a porcupine clenched in his jaws. I have to admit this porcupine was a bit of a tough nut to crack. Even though the system rewarded me with 50 points for taking it down, I'm too lazy to mess with this species again, because it really hurts like hell when it stabs your mouth. The lion enclosure was unusually quiet tonight, but an uninvited guest was targeting the lion cubs as they slept soundly. It was a king cobra over 2 meters long, one of the most dangerous snakes in the world. Normally, it doesn't live in the mammal area. It only ended up here today because it was chasing prey. Unexpectedly, it stumbled upon a few tender and delicious meals. Very quickly, it caught the scent of other animals nearby, but there was one single scent that it couldn't quite identify yet. It felt an inexplicable sense of fear rising from deep within its heart. But the night was late. Everything was still as it watched the sleeping lion cubs. The king cobra instinctively narrowed its eyes. Then it slowly slithered toward its target. Perhaps due to an animal's sharp intuition for danger, the sleeping mother lion suddenly snapped her eyes open. She immediately spotted the king cobra, preparing to attack her litter. She instantly flew into a rage, swinging her claws to strike the enemy in front of her. But lions are actually very wary of snakes. They have no defense against their venom. That's why in Africa, snakes can almost be considered a natural enemy of the lion. The mother lion shielded her cubs behind her, while she herself didn't dare to attack recklessly. She could only frantically use her claws to hold it off. But the king cobra had no intention of letting them go. It slowly reared its body up, searching for an opening to strike the opponent. The lion's roar just woke up every other animal in the neighborhood. The cheetahs and baboons were freaking out, screaming their heads off. As for me, I'd spent the day tackling a porcupine and ended up covered in quills. I was so wiped out that by nightfall I was dead to the world. I didn't hear a single thing. Meanwhile, that king cobra was still squaring off with the mama lion. Finally, it saw an opening and sank its fangs deep into her. Now, a cobra's bite strength isn't that impressive, and to a battle-hardened lion, it's barely even a scratch. But that lethal venom, that's something even a queen can't ignore. As the clock ticked, the mama lion started getting dizzy, and her vision began to blur. She knew if she kept this up, her cubs wouldn't stand a chance. So with the last of strength she had left, she lunged at the king cobra in a fit of rage. Using that distraction, she signaled her cubs to squeeze out of the cage and run to me for protection. But that cobra seemed to read her mind. It just kept dodging and weaving, trying to wear the poor mama lion out. Before long, her legs started to buckle, until finally everything went black and she hit the ground. That's when the king cobra set its sights on the fleeing cubs. As it slithered closer, the cubs were shaking with fear, making a break for my territory. How's a nursing cub supposed to outrun a 2-meter-long king cobra? In a heartbeat, the snake was within striking distance. But right at that split second, a silver-white shadow suddenly blasted out. Then smack, I delivered a brutal backhand. Right to the snake's throat. It looked like a casual swing, but it nearly sent that snake to the great beyond. The king cobra shook its head, trying to clear the cobwebs, and slowly looked up. One look, and its heart jumped into its throat. For a cold-blooded killer, it was looking pretty ready to burst into tears. Holy crap. A honey badger. Since when does this zoo have a honey badger? You see, no matter the snake, the only land animal they truly fear is the honey badger. Because unlike the big guys, like lions or hunting dogs, honey badgers might be small, but they're born naturally immune to venom. In fact, once they're grown, Khmer snakes are basically the top item on their dinner menu. This one looks like a juvenile, though. Maybe it won't be too tough to handle. The cobra tried to reassure itself. Then it reared its head back and launched itself at me like a poison arrow. But me, I wasn't scared one bit. If anything, I just smirked. Can't believe I just woke up and dinner already delivered itself. I gave a big stretch, unsheathed my sharp claws, and charged right at that cobra. Our fight was pretty straightforward. No flashy moves, no cat-and-mouse games, just raw grappling and tearing each other apart. The king cobra thought its squeeze could choke the life out of me, but it had no idea my raw strength was way beyond its imagination. Its fangs couldn't even pierce my hide, let alone inject that venom it's so proud of. But me, I did the opposite. I wrapped my claws around its massive body and started ripping it to shreds. Honestly, this guy tastes pretty good, kind of like a giant spicy snack stick. Bit by bit, the king cobra's grip began to weaken. Its eyes started to grow dim and lifeless. Finally, it collapsed, unwilling to accept its fate. Seeing that the baboons in the next cage looked at me with pure worship. In the dead of night, they started cheering. At this very moment in their hearts, I had definitely become their leader. Even though the mother lion's wounds were severe, luckily, the keepers treated her just in time, so she managed to barely pull through. As of now, in this entire zoo, I truly have no rivals left to face. Staying here won't earn me any more points. With that in mind, I made the final call to head back to the savannah. For the next 3 days, I looked after the cubs in place of the injured mother lion. Once she recovered, I bit through the chain-link fence and bolted toward the zoo's exit at full speed. The other animals in the area saw this and understood exactly what I was planning. Everyone was unusually quiet, lining up against the fences to see me off in silence. However, the whole scene was caught on camera and broadcasted live, leaving everyone stunned. My ability to lead across different species went way beyond anything the experts in the field could comprehend. A few days later, I was resting on the ground. Even though I was far from the zoo by now, I was still only on the outer edge of the African savanna. There isn't much wildlife around here. I haven't run into any prey along the way. Worth my effort. Suddenly, a piercing cry rang out from right above my head. I froze instinctively. That sound, it was so incredibly familiar. I looked up and saw the little honey-guide bird, the one that had led me to the beehive before. It was thrilled to see an old friend again, chirping away as if it were asking why I was here. But how on earth was I supposed to understand bird talk? I just ignored it and kept moving forward. Seeing that the honey guide let out another sharp cry and flapped its wings ready to tag along with me. Meanwhile, back at the zoo, the staff were in a total panic. They were scrambling to check the mother lion's tracking device. It turns out that not long after I left, the mother lion had recovered and escaped with her cubs in tow. I absolutely hated the rainy season in Africa because being soaking wet makes it way too easy to get sick. I've never been afraid of a fight, but the threat of disease is a terrifying thing for an animal to face. Right now I was lounging a tree branch to hide from the rain, even though I knew it wasn't safe. Compared to being soaked to the bone, I'd rather take my chances with getting struck by lightning. The little honey guide huddled close to my back. It was so tiny. In the middle of this heavy storm, it had nowhere else to turn for shelter but me. The rain dragged on throughout the night. If I were still in the zoo, I probably could have had a nice long sleep. But now that I'm out on the African savanna, I have to stay alert at all times. Just then, not too far away, an injured mother lion suddenly came running toward me. Her cubs were trailing behind her, and it was obvious they were being hunted by another predator. This kind of thing happens every single day out here on the African savanna. I'm used to seeing it. Wait a second. Why do those cubs look so familiar? Once they got closer, I realized it was that lion family I used to mess with back in the zoo. And not far behind them, 3 African wild dogs were in pursuit. I can't believe those guys managed to escape too. A lone lioness out here is in a lot of danger, especially with her cubs being such easy targets for other predators. Man, I guess fate really wanted me to cross paths with this family again. Since we've crossed paths again, I can't just stand around and watch them get wrecked. I refuse to just sit back and do nothing. With that thought, I turned into a silver blur and leaped down from the tree. My sudden entrance caught both the lioness and the wild dogs completely off guard. But once they realized it was me, those lion cubs got as hyped as a pack of huskies, practically tripping over each other to snuggle up to me. Sure, I used to treat them like chew toys back in the day, but I did save their hides from a king cobra once, so these little guys are super attached to me now. The mama lion let out a huge sigh of relief the moment she saw me. She knows damn well that with my power, even if 10 more of those wild dogs showed up, they wouldn't stand a chance against Chum. Seeing me acting all buddy-buddy with the lion cubs, all 3 wild dogs just stood there completely frozen. Retreating meant giving up a prime meal that was right in front of them, but charging in meant facing a honey badger, and that's a fight no one wants. Their alpha queen had taught them since they were pups that as long as they stick together, they can take on lions or leopards, but never, ever mess with a honey badger. Messing with one is a straight-up death sentence for the whole pack. I looked down at the cubs clinging to me and didn't push them away instead, turning my gaze to size up the 3 punks standing in front of me. I couldn't see much from up in the tree earlier, just that the cubs were in trouble. But now I see exactly who we're dealing with. 3 wild dogs famous for their notorious rear-end attacking technique. Honestly, I absolutely despise these things. They're infamous worldwide for their habit of eating their prey alive while it's still breathing. That alone makes me lose every ounce of sympathy for them. The 3 of them started panicking under my cold stare, wanting to bolt, but too afraid of losing face. Finally, the biggest one decided to test his luck and let out a low growl at me. He probably thought that in the animal kingdom, fighting had to follow some kind of code, like you have to stare each other down first. But too bad for him, I wasn't about to put up with his arrogant garbage. In a split second, I turned into a streak of silver light and charged. Those 3 dogs nearly crapped themselves, turning tail to run for their lives as fast as they could. But did they really think I'd just let them walk away? You dared to bark in my face, and now you're trying to run. I threw a heavy strike at the dog that growled at me. Seeing my move, the mama lion let out a furious roar and lunged at another dog. After popping those low-level enhancement pills multiple times, my strength has shot up over 10 times its original limit. Combined with my ultimate critical strike, a single blow was enough to snap that dog's spine like a twig. It collapsed instantly, howling in agony. The other dog tried to dive in and save its buddy, but it was useless. Its puny bite strength was completely unable to even scratch my defense. All it took was one solid slap from me to send it straight to the afterlife. The mama lion might be injured and unable to take on all 3, but handling just one was a walk in the park for her. After all, you don't get called the king of the savannah for nothing. I looked down at the dog with the broken spine howling on the ground and felt zero pity. I went straight for its throat and finished it off, sending it to join its 2 buddies in hell. Right then, the system chimed in with a notification stating I'd reached a 9-game winning streak. As a reward, the system granted me a special new skill: diving. This skill allows me to swim freely underwater for a certain amount of time without any obstacles. I don't even have to worry about breathing or speed anymore. I was absolutely stoked. With this, my hunting grounds can finally expand into the water. After all, the deadliest beasts aren't only found on land. I looked back at the lioness, feeling a bit dazed, thinking about how I can kick his butt whenever I want later, and having earned those points, I couldn't help but flash a big toothy grin. But the lioness totally misread me, thinking I was trying to play nice. Next thing I know, she's trotting right behind me like a lost puppy. Right then, the honey-guide bird flew back. Looks like he found us a fresh beehive. I gave the wild dog's carcass a disgusted look and headed out with the lioness following close behind. To find a decent spot to crash, we stopped by a pond to take a breather for a bit. But out of nowhere, we ran into a massive otter living there. I figured since we're basically cousins, he might help me snag a fish for lunch. Instead, this little punk not only dove into the water to hide, but he actually had the nerve to mock my stylish haircut. I stared at that smug little otter gloating from the water, and I absolutely lost it. Without a second thought, I dove headfirst into the water, charging straight at him. My move scared the living daylights out of that otter. He knew honey badgers were beasts on land, but he'd never heard of one that could actually swim. He tried to dive deep to make a quick getaway, but seeing me hot on his tail, he looked like he was about to burst into tears. However, not too far away, 2 Nile crocodiles were lurking, waiting for their moment. They were just biding their time until both the otter and I wore each other out. Back on the bank, the lioness was pacing around, worried sick, but she knew all too well that she'd be useless to me once things went underwater. The otter was a pro swimmer, but at the end of the day, he's still a mammal. He could only hold his breath for maybe 4 or 5 minutes. But I'm built different, thanks to the system's support. I can stay submerged for a full 30 minutes. The 2 crocodiles at the bottom sensed that the otter was reaching his limit, so they made their move and lunged. One went after the little otter while the other came straight for me. Luckily, the otter was quick on his feet. At the last second, he dove deep narrowly, dodging the crocodile's lethal snap, then turned back to look at me. Right then I had my own showdown with the other crocodile. Even with my diving skills, I'm still not exactly a natural-born water dweller. I definitely wasn't as agile as the otter, even though I spotted the crocky and managed to swerve just in time. I still got grazed right by its massive jaws. Its razor-sharp teeth actually scraped off a few of my beautiful hairs. That made me absolutely livid. I couldn't believe this overgrown lizard had the nerve to try and sneak up on me. I immediately spun around, gave up on chasing the otter, and charged straight at the crocodile instead. The little otter seemed to get the hint, and we teamed up perfectly on the same side as he went after the other crocodile. An adult otter's fighting power is nothing for a Nile crocodile to underestimate. Realizing how dangerous the otter was after its failed sneak attack, that crocodile ditched its partner and hightailed it out of there like a coward. But the crocodile in front of me clearly had no idea who he was dealing with, lunging at me with its mouth wide open. Like I was ever going to let an arrogant reptile like that get away with it. I wound up my right hand and delivered a powerful, bone-crushing strike, slamming my claws right into its eye. I knew for a fact that this was the only weak spot on its entire body. That single blow completely blinded the beast and even rattled its brain. Everything went dark for the croc as it slowly sank to the muddy bottom. Before long, the surrounding water was stained a deep crimson. The lioness was still pacing the shore, frantic with worry. Finally, I slowly poked my head above the surface and dragged myself onto the bank, completely exhausted. I collapsed on the ground, panting like crazy. After all, that was my first time ever fighting underwater. My lack of experience meant I wasted a ton of energy, but hey, I still took down a whole crocodile. I'm too exhausted to chase that otter anymore. Maybe he felt guilty because the little guy, with the lioness's help, managed to drag the crocodile's carcass up and drop it right at my feet. Looks like he's trying to thank me. We're distant relatives after all, so I decided not to hold a grudge against the otter and instead just started devouring the croc. Right then, the honey-guide bird was circling above. Its piercing shrieks were a warning to us, turns out not too far away. Those anthropologists had been tailing us the whole time. Seeing the lioness looking so restless and uneasy, I knew instantly those people were definitely after her. She was absolutely terrified. She was scared they were here to drag her back to the zoo. That's why she's never had a good vibe from humans. After saying goodbye to the otter, we hit the road again. With the little honey guide scouting ahead, we found ourselves a thick, dense forest. But the lioness was acting extremely cautious about this place. Spending so much time together has helped me get a read on what she's thinking. This spot might look like a great shelter, but peace often hides a lot of danger. A prime piece of real estate like this is bound to attract a lot of competition from other animals. My brave warrior wanted to convince me to go elsewhere. But look, if no one picks a fight, fine, but if they do, there's no way I'm leaving. Because this is exactly what I was looking for. I led the whole crew straight into this new home. Pushing through the brush, I reached the center of the clearing, checked out the terrain, and nodded in approval. Right then and there, I claimed it as my turf. But as I paced around, I felt something off about the ground. It was soft and spongy, clearly showing signs of being dug up. I gave the earth a solid smack with my paw. Suddenly, the ground caved in, revealing a pretty sweet-looking burrow. Looks like some animal put a lot of work into digging this, but honestly, that didn't matter to me. What mattered was that I loved it. From now on, this is my crib. But just as I was about to crawl in for a nap, I heard a furious growl. I rushed out of the burrow, worried the lioness might go too far and steal my potential snack. But the moment I got outside, I saw it. Mama Lion was facing off against a warthog. Since I was a huge fan of the movie The Lion King in my past life, seeing the real-life Pumbaa gave me a bit of a soft spot for the guy. I figured this burrow was his masterpiece. If he played his cards right, I might just let him live. But this warthog wasn't cute like Pumbaa at all. Seeing me crawl out of his house, he charged straight at me in a blind rage. Those 4 tusks in his mouth were razor sharp. Even a lion wouldn't want to take him head on, but I was pretty damn confident in my defense. I raised my right paw and slapped the warthog hard. The impact was massive. It didn't break through my skin, but it still sent me flying a few meters back. Meanwhile, that heavy smack of mine crushed his skull instantly. Looking at the warthog lying dead on the ground, I didn't really have an appetite. So I signaled for the mama lion and her cubs to dig in, but wouldn't you know it, the scent of blood drew in other predators. Out from the nearby bushes, a cheetah slowly emerged. But the moment it spotted the lion, it froze for a second, then looked over at me, just chilling on the side. "Oh, it's you guys." And here I thought another snack was delivering itself to my door. Who would have guessed this cheetah was that same dummy from the zoo?